So now we shall take a look at three of the great empires of Asia, one being the Mughal Empire of India, then we will see the Qing dynasty of China, and then we will see the Tokugawa state, which is not actually an empire, but nonetheless it is a significant political state that bears understanding and helps understand a great many other things as we get further down the line in this course. We begin with the Mughal Empire in India, which is the empire that built large numbers of monuments and great structures and created a society and a culture that was largely a fusion-based culture and society. So we'll see how the Mughals began in India and then their influence and their contributions overall. This map here shows the extent of the Mughal Empire, as it covered almost the entirety of the Indian subcontinent, as well as Pakistan and most of Afghanistan. And you see its two major cities, Calcutta and Mumbai, which of course used to be known as Bombay. The Mughals in India created one of the most sophisticated, stable, and long-lasting empires. The Mughal Empire, often called the Mughal Empire, lasted from 1526 until 1857. The empire takes its name from the people who were wandering Mongolian tribes that migrated into India from Persia and Afghanistan, just as the ancient Aryans had done, coming through the Khyber Pass. These tribespeople were Sunni Muslims, which is the largest branch of Islam, and upholds the 6 pillars of Iman, which means faith, and comprises the Ash'ari and the Maturidi schools of Kalam, which is theology, as well as the textualist school known as the traditionalist theology. Now, the first leader of the Mughals to move into India was a Mongolian Khan named Zahir-ud-Din Muhammad Babur, who became known as Babar. It was under the leadership of the third Mughal emperor, Akbar, that the empire consolidated its holdings in India and developed a very strong and stable economy, leading to commercial expansion and a greater patronage of culture. Akbar himself was a patron of art and culture. He was very fond of literature and created a library of over 24,000 volumes written in the Sanskrit, Urdu, Persian, Greek, Latin, Arabic, and Kashmiri languages. And these libraries were staffed by many scholars, translators, artists, calligraphers, scribes, bookbinders, and readers. He did much of the cataloging himself through 3 main groupings. Akbar also established a library of Fatehpur Sikri exclusively for women, and he decreed that schools for the education of both Muslims and Hindus should be established throughout the realm. He also encouraged bookbinding to become a high art. Therefore, holy men of many faiths, poets, architects, and artisans adorned his court from all over the world for study and discussion. Akbar's courts at Delhi, Agra, and Fatehpur Sikri became centers of the arts, letters, and learning. Timurid and Perso-Islamic culture began to merge and blend with indigenous Indian elements, and a distinct Indo-Persian culture emerged, characterized by Mughal-style arts, painting, and architecture. Akbar was disillusioned with Orthodox Islam, found it to be too strident. He didn't like Sharia law all that much, and he was perhaps hoping to bring about religious unity within his empire. And so Akbar promulgated Din-Jihai, which is a syncretic creed derived mainly from Islam and Hinduism, as well as some parts of Zoroastrianism and Christianity. Akbar's reign significantly influenced the course of history on the Indian subcontinent. During his rule, the Mughal Empire tripled in size and wealth. He created a powerful military system and instituted effective political and social reforms. He abolished the sectarian tax on non-Muslims and appointed them to high civil and military posts. And he was the first Mughal ruler to win the trust and loyalty of the native subjects. He had Sanskrit literature translated, participated in native festivals. He realized that a stable empire depended upon the cooperation and goodwill of his subjects. Thus, the foundations for a multicultural empire under Mughal rule were laid during his reign. Thus, the Mughal dynasty would last from the 16th through the 19th centuries and would rule almost all of India, Pakistan, and parts of Afghanistan. The Mughal influence is felt even to this day. Now, at the time that the emperors ruled in India, they ruled under a form of government called absolutism. Now, we're going to get into absolutism a little more in depth later on in the class, but basically, in short, absolutism is the belief that power derives from God to the sovereign and then down upon the people, whereas the other form of government is called constitutionalism, as the people give power to the sovereign. Okay. What the Mughal emperor and the empire did is that it fused together Persian art and culture with Indian art and culture. So what you get is what's known as an Indo-Persian style of culture. The reign of Akbar, for instance, was characterized by commercial expansion with new trade routes to Arab and Turkish lands, which means, of course, with trade, you're getting all sorts of goods and ideas that are flowing into the Mughal Empire from the Arabic and Turkish lands. The Mughal government encouraged traders, provided protection and security for transactions, put very low custom duties to stimulate foreign trade, and it strived to make trade lucrative by requiring local administrators to give restitution to traders who had goods stolen while in their territory. Then, to minimize robbing and banditry, you had highway police. They were called radhars. They patrolled the roads. It was sort of like a state police to ensure the safety of traders. Other active members included the construction included the construction and protection of routes of commerce and communications. So you have an empire that is very well organized because it has a very good road and communication network. Foreign relations in the Mughal Empire expanded with agreements with the Portuguese to give access to Indian Ocean ports. The Jesuits were allowed into India to preach, although they sometimes ran afoul of the local leaders because they tended to ridicule Islam and Muhammad. The Mughals also joined forces with the Ottoman Empire to gang up against the Portuguese, as well as arrange pilgrimages to Mecca, because after all, this is a Muslim culture that we're dealing with. The Mughlai cuisine also fused various spices and foods to create a cuisine that was very, very unique to Indians. So when you go to Indian restaurants to this day, what you're doing is you're eating Mughlai cuisine. And of course, last but not least, it's Mughal architecture. That was an Indo-Persian variety. The Mughals were incredible builders. It shows the wealth and stability of this empire that they are able to build great fortresses, great palaces, engage in beautiful landscape gardening, and so forth, that really make this one of the most beautiful areas of the world. What you see here is one of the great water gardens located in Agra, India. The Mughals were incredible engineers when it came to being able to make water move around in gardens. This is the Bulan Darwaza in Fatehpur Sikri, located near Agra, India, where the water garden is located. Again, another water garden. This is the Veranag Garden in Srinagar, located in the Kashmir region. of India. This beautiful mosque is called the Bashahi Mosque, located in Lahore in the Punjab, which is in modern-day Pakistan. It truly was a glorious society, and the Mughal Empire unified India once and for all and made it into the nation that it is, really to this day. It produced a unified coinage. That is always good when your currency can work in any part of the country. And remember, India is a subcontinent. It's very large. Hindus and Muslims reconciled under this glorious society. In fact, it was Gandhi himself who said that his own Hindu priest would preach from both the Vedas and from the Quran during worship, saying that all great religious texts have tremendous lessons for us all. They also had tremendous science and technology. Taking the works of the Islamic astronomers back from the Middle Ages, the Mughal Empire made instruments and tremendous technology to study the stars, but not just study the stars, to navigate by the stars. They made what was known as a seamless globe that you see there. They also perfected what was known as the volley gun, which is the forerunner of the machine gun. They used gunpowder in warfare better than most others, which made them very formidable to powers like the Portuguese, who themselves understood that they were now outnumbered and outgunned by the Mughals. The Mughals actually created a language. They fused Persian, Hindi, and Arabic languages together to create what is known as Urdu. And in this language, the empire produced numerous works of prose and poetry that are still read and collected even to this day. However, as with all great empires, the Mughals declined. And what precipitated it was a crisis of succession. Who was going to succeed the emperors? And that led to a great deal of infighting that weakened the Mughals and made them prey to outside forces that sought to drive wedges. In addition, pro-Muslim rulers began to alienate the Hindus, whereas before, under Akbar and religious syncretism, all religions were welcome. There began a great, shall we say, Muslim resurgence in India that alienated the majority Hindus. You also had new threats from the Afghans, who were being ruled by the Mughals, but as you well know, Afghanistan does not like outside rulers. And also the Sikhs, the turbaned, bearded Indians who had their own particular religion within India. But the biggest threat of them all, and what would undo the Mughal Empire, comes from the British East India Tea Company. The British East India Tea Company was actually a nation within a nation. They had their own flag, if you remember any of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies. They coined their own currency. They even had their own army. And they were the first true multinational corporation. The British East India Tea Company begins to take over from the Portuguese and then the Dutch the tea trade in India, and gradually increases its influence and gradually begins to drive wedges among the Mughal rulers, until in 1857, when the sepoys revolted. Now, what happened was this, is that the British East India Tea Company had both Muslim and Hindu as their soldiers in their army. And in order to fill the powder into your muskets that you used, into your rifles that you used, you had to bite off the end of a paper cartridge that had the gunpowder in it. And in order to keep that gunpowder dry and safe in there, you sealed the outside of that paper cartridge with animal fat. If you're Muslim, you do not eat pork. If you're Hindu, you do not eat beef. And the sepoys, who are both Hindu and Muslim, not knowing whether or not that this cartridge is greased with pig fat or with beef fat, says that we can't do this according to our religion. And the British, showing their typical British style of disdainful treatment of others, simply says, too bad. The sepoys rebel. The British East India Tea Company now tells the British Crown, come help us, come bail us out. And that's what Britain does. They come in and they take over India. And so in 1857, essentially a subcontinent of 500 million people are being ruled by a European power of only 100,000 people living in that area. And it would remain that way until 1947, when Gandhi would lead India and Pakistan to independence. One of the Mughal rulers, Shah Jahan, had numerous wives, but among his wives he loved the most his third wife, Mumtaz Mahal, who gave him several children, and he loved her very deeply, but she died in childbirth, and he was so overwrought with grief that he turned his grief into building perhaps one of the most spectacular buildings there is on this planet, and that is, of course, the Taj Mahal, which is located in India, outside of New Delhi. It is constructed of a stone that is so subtle that when the sun is at different points in the sky, the stone turns different colors. So it, at sunrise, has one color, at sunset has another color. Here are two pictures from within the Taj Mahal, of course on the upper left of the tombs of Shah Jahan and his wife Mumtaz Mahal. And look at the beautiful tracery and the flowers and vines and so forth. And then you see the entrance portico in the lower right. And again, the ornate tracings and carvings that are here in the Taj Mahal. And typical of most Muslim oriented structures, you don't see any religious imagery here in the sense of statues or faces or figures or anything like that. Instead, you see ornate tracings, geometric patterns, and so forth. That is a hallmark of Muslim architecture.